Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. John Bart's here with you with Network Consulting Services. And today we'll be discussing managing your identity crisis. We've got our identity expert, Brian Hodzik, with us today. Welcome, Brian.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
And today it's all about demoing the identity management tools from Okta, specifically your challenges around password reset, single sign-on, and multi-factor authentication. Brian, ready to go? Why aren't you on camera, Brian?
Oh, sorry, John. I didn't know there was going to be a camera. I didn't change out of my nighttime pajamas into my work pajamas. So sorry about that.
TMI. Regardless, let's go ahead and get rocking then. Thanks, Brian.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Like John said, my name is Brian Hodzik. I'm with NCSI, and today I want to talk about some identity solutions that Okta brings to the table for organizations out there. I work with a lot of organizations, and I talk to them about the managing the users, managing the identity of people. And there's a myriad of different problems out there, and one that always comes to the forefront has to do with things like onboarding. What does your onboarding or your offboarding process look like today? I still see paper forms. I see old-fashioned methods of getting people into the system. I see broken, old, and antiquated things for understanding when someone gets born into our into our organization and how they get access to the things that they should. If you've ever seen on LinkedIn, there's kind of a funny thing that goes around that people take a picture of their desk on the first day. And in that picture, there's, it shows their coffee cup, it shows their shirt with the logo on it. It's all the things that the marketing department got for them to work there, all the kind of swag associated with it. And I always think in the back of my head, can that user log in? Do they have access to the applications that they're supposed to? Are there going to be 3 weeks before they finally get access to the CRM system? I want to make the onboarding and the offboarding of our employees and making sure people have the right access, a picturable moment of something that you could, post on LinkedIn that says, look, we were able to give access to this user the very first day, very first morning, they had access to all of the applications that they were supposed to. So the existing environment is really tough. Maybe we have some partial automation with things like scripts. Maybe we automatically create an Active Directory account, but they don't have access to other systems or cloud-based applications. And so that's what Okta is going to help solve is understand better how users come into our organization and how we give access to them. With Okta, we want it to be the center of the user's identity. And what most organizations tell me is they have multiple different places where information lives. For example, upper right-hand corner there, you have Workday or UltiPro or some kind of HR application. That's where maybe users are born. That's where, when HR hires someone, that's where it comes from. But then we also have Active Directory. It stores information, maybe email information, maybe login credentials. But maybe we have something else like a Ring Central or some kind of phone system that has phone information. But then maybe we also have other systems like our cloud systems, Box and Office 365, et cetera. How do we bring all of these together? And so, Okta wants to be the center of that identity universe and bridge the gap between these multiple systems. We have a great product called the Universal Directory that can take attributes from different systems, understand what they mean, and then potentially manipulate them and send them out to a different system. So if you look really closely, you can see some of these arrows that we have, are going in multiple directions. We can not only bring information in, but we can also send information out to those various systems. So Okta really needs to be the center of your identity universe. When it comes to things like security, we have this curve of maturity and curve of security associated with things like multi-factor. When do we do multi-factor? Why do we do multi-factor? What is the factor that we're choosing and what users are we applying that to? We wanted to give you that flexibility that says, for some users, maybe a question of password is good enough, but maybe other ones or other conditions, we need to have something more like a biometric or something that's a physical access token. And so All of these things are going to help us make the decisions associated with the user. And really, it boils down to kind of this workflow. We want to create a concept of contextual access management, whereas it's not a black and white scenario in the past. When we had things, we had an on-premise application behind the firewall, it was kind of this black and white thing. If you're in the inside, you can't access it. But we need to really take a lot of conditions into an equation to understand whether we should provide access. What is the user context? What network context are they in? Are they at the office? Are they connecting through some kind of anonymizer? Are they in a country we don't trust? What is the device context? What kind of device is it? Is it the first time we've seen this device? Is it being managed by us? The location context. Let's get down to, geography of saying, what state are they in? Are they logging in from a new state? And, is it impossible to travel from, California to New York in 1 hour? If so, maybe that's a higher risk, and we need to understand that. And then that gives us our contextual response, being able to then make a smart decision based on that. Should we allow this particular user to access this application? Should we prompt for a second factor and force them to give us more information or something like that, or should we deny them? So we want to make that contextual access management be part of the equation. And what that really boils down to is what we want to provide here in our modern access management is we want to give the right people that have the right level of access, access to the right resources in the right context that they can continually access. And that really is with the least friction possible. It's incredibly important to remember that least friction. If you implement multi-factor authentication wrong and make the user type in a code or something like that, 57 times a day, I'm glad you're working from home right now, because if you were at the office, they'd find your car in the parking lot and slash your tires. So we want to make sure that there's the least friction as possible, but we still gain that security that we're after with all of the parameters that we have in place. So I'd like to walk you through a demonstration of kind of what this looks like in action. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to go log into our company called Virtrillo. This is just my fake company I use to demonstrate to customers what the what the system looks like. So they're going to this URL, and we're going to have our user Tom Smith log into the computer here, or log into Okta. So he's going to go and type in his username and password. Now you can see what's happened here is I have created a sign-on policy that dictates that when he signs in, he needs to have a one-time push, from the Okta system to verify that, that's really him. So what we have here is I'm mirroring my my phone here. So what we're going to do is open up our Okta application, and when that push gets sent, what's going to happen is it's going to, buzz the phone. It's going to pop up and say, hey, you're just trying to sign in from this location. It gives a geography of where it's at, and then I can say, well, yeah, that is me. I am doing a login right here, right now. And so I'm going to approve that. And what's going to happen is, the application kind of moves on to the next context. Now, remember, it doesn't have to be just Okta MFA. It can be, we can integrate with, like a physical token, like a YubiKey or RSA, something like that. But I find the Okta Verify application is very convenient. It's just a smartphone app. It just, buzzes my phone and I hit the button on it. Now, my user's logged in here. Tom is looking at the applications that he has. I know it sounds like a simple thing, but how many times have users called into the help desk and say, I just don't know how to get to Office 365 or one of these different applications. This gives them a nice, clean view for them to access all of their applications that we've given them access to. I can go up here and create a tab. Maybe I want to have certain things for CRM, or I want to move these are called chiclets. Maybe I want to move them around and organize them better. I can. So when a user wants to access an application, it's incredibly easy. So let's say I want to log into the Office 365 portal. I can go click on that. It takes me to the Microsoft page. And there I am. I'm logged into Office 365. That was incredibly simple. It was using that SAML technology, the secure assertion markup language. That's the magic that glues this all together. So, we're not doing anything fancy like password syncing or anything like that. We're just telling Office 365 that when a user logs in, don't ask them for a username and password. Ask Okta if they've already authenticated, and if they have, go ahead and let them have access to the system. So here I have access to my Office 365 application. I have a bunch of other Office 365 related things. Maybe I want to go connect to something like ServiceNow. Here I have a plug-in to my ServiceNow instance. Maybe I'm an analyst. I need to go open or close tickets. Other things I have access to are things that maybe don't have a direct management over. Like an AWS console. Is there a shared username and password that just all of the developers know and they all just log into it? Well, we can actually turn that into an application. If it's not SAML compliant, that's okay. You're going to see what's going to happen is it's actually going to take the username and password and it's going to fill it in on my behalf. So I don't even have to know what that password is. Now I have access to AWS. Now, ideally, we use that SAML technology, but in certain cases where we don't control the authentication system, we can form fill and type in the username and password on the user's behalf. There's also a couple of other things down here that maybe I'm doing by personal, maybe I have my Facebook account in here. We can actually choose, if you as the administrator want to, you can have the user have their password information be saved inside of Okta. So you can see it went and did a form fill there as well. Apparently I can access Facebook right now on my fake profile, but it went and typed in my username and password for me. And if I even just go to the website, the button pops up. I have a little plug-in here into my browser and says, yeah, take my information here and type it in the username and password field, press login. So that's something you can choose to allow or disallow. That's one of those just convenience things that users tend to like. And whenever we're implementing something that's a security technology, users usually suffer from it, right? They are not as happy afterwards. I can tell you from personal experience, in organizations we've implemented this, and even in my organization, NCSI, when we implemented this, our users were much, much happier. Before they had, dozens of different username and password combinations. They didn't know how to access the applications. Now I spoon feed it to them in one location. Very easy for them to get that information back. So maybe if I'm on the server admin team, I have the ability to access certain servers. So we have this really cool feature called the Okta Advanced Server Access. So what this is going to do is it's going to tell me more about different projects or different servers that I potentially have access to. You can see I have a Windows box and a Linux box here. If I'm an administrator, or I'm a developer, maybe I don't want to give those developers full access to the system. Maybe I don't want to, have them have domain admin privileges, but I want them to be able to have local admin privileges on those machines and be able to have access to it. So here I can use the advanced server access. And it's very easy to use. Most developers and things like that are comfortable working from the command line, but I can just run the SFT command and list servers. Shows me all the different servers that I have access to. And if I want to connect to one, I can just say SFT and then RDP and then this server right here, and it's going to go ahead and connect for me and automatically authenticate. So what happens is we've gotten the user to have access as an administrator locally here on this machine to do whatever kind of administrative functions they need there, but we've brokered that connection through the advanced server access. So we've kept track of everything, we've monitored everything, we can take away their access, in a moment's notice. And the same thing works for SSH. So I'm going to go connect to my MySQL server. You can see right here, I'm now on that machine and can do administrative functions. And so what's great about this is all of this information has been logged. So I can tell you exactly who it was, what was happening, how the authentication system was functioning. And that gives us the ability to understand exactly who are accessing these servers. If I need to restrict their rights, or they get terminated, or they were a contractor and I needed to only give them temporary access, it's all authenticated through Okta. As soon as their information out of Okta would expire or I would deny them access, they wouldn't be able to run that anymore. And I don't have to go back and reset passwords or do anything like that. They never had the local administrative password. So that's a great thing they added a couple of years ago called Advanced Server Access. So we've been looking at it a lot from the administrator's perspective, or excuse me, from the end user's perspective. Let's jump over to the administrative view and see kind of what that looks like. So now I'm logged in as administrator, and this is my dashboard for getting access to all my different applications. So first, let's go talk about directory integrations. So directory integrations is where we're going to talk to other systems and get directory or user-based information. And you can see here I have Active Directory. You know, most organizations still have Active Directory. So I'm going to connect that with an agent. So it's incredibly simple. All we do is install an agent. Here I have my DC1. It takes about 5 minutes to install. I'm not exaggerating there, very, very simple. And then we're up and going with our connection to Active Directory. Now, an important aspect of this is understanding who is going to be in charge here. And I'd love Okta to be in charge, but we can go in both directions. We can have Okta go down to Active Directory and provision users and disable them and give them rights and so forth. And then we can also go the opposite direction. Maybe I want Active Directory to be the master, and I want that information to be imported into Okta. So you get to control how that process works and who's going to be in charge from an authentication perspective or from a directory perspective as well. So you get to control how that works. Under assignments here, this is just where we would assign particular users to it. Let's go into an application that we would have maybe specific assignments or things that might be a little bit more variable. So here I have my Office 365. You can see it, I have it assigned to a couple of users here. If I open this up, it's going to give me access to look at what attributes I've actually gone and provisioned over to Office 365. So I can set things like what their role would be. Maybe I want them to be an administrator, or maybe I want to set what license that they have. Here I've set this particular user to have the Exchange online plan #1. So it's not just the creation of the accounts and the authentication of the accounts with SAML. We can also do more specific things like actually set licenses, set different group membership that they should be a part of, set particular roles that they should have associated with Office 365. So very easy to do that. You don't have to learn the API or do any scripting. You can just come in here and set up some different checkboxes. So while we're in here at the Office 365 application, let's talk a little bit more about sign-on. Sign-on gives us the way to control how that sign-on process works. In this case, we're using WS Federation associated with Office 365. But down here at the bottom, I want to talk about the sign-on policy. I've had a lot of customers talk to me, and I've actually seen this happen where I will get an email from a customer, someone I know, someone I've worked with and interacted with before, and it's about an invoice. And if I were to click on the link, it would go to a website and ask me to log in to my SharePoint. When it's not really SharePoint, it's a phishing scam, but it's coming from someone that I know. There's a big problem with that happening these days of users just falling to these phishing scams and then perpetuating that out. They use the Outlook Web Access to be able to send out those emails. So maybe I want to step that up. Maybe I want to control this a little bit more. So here at an individual application, if I don't want to just have it at the general authentication, but at an individual application, I could say something like this. I could say, I want to know whether they're in a certain zone or not in a certain zone. So I could go in here to my zones, and I could, create one for my office or one for work or one for different geographies that we have out there. Maybe I want to look at what kind of client they're using. Are they using a desktop? Are they using a mobile device? What kind of authentication were they using? Do I trust that device? Have I seen it before? Maybe I want to prompt for a, multi-factor or something like that. So I'm able to create these different authentication parameter settings at an individual application level, like right here at Office 365, but I can also go over here to at a general level, understanding things. When they sign in, we can have different rules kick in, and what would take precedent. What is the how often should we ask them for their factor again? When should the session expire? Maybe we want to prompt them every single time if we want to. Maybe we want to go in here and say accepted in the office. I could go over here to my networks page and add a zone for the office. That way, if they are in the office, I'm not going to prompt them for factors because maybe I've decided that they're a lot more secure when they're physically there. So I can create different rules associated with the sign-on. And then I can also do basic stuff, just password complexity requirements, things like that, when it should reset, how often it lasts, things like that. From a password reset perspective, it's now very, very easy for our users when, if Tom logs out here, we give him the ability to do a forgot password right here. And I can do lots of different things. I could do it via email. Maybe I'm going to ask security questions. Maybe I want him to do his multi-factor. Lots of different things I can choose, but now it's self-service. The user's allowed to do that on their own. So let's log back in here. And I'm going to prompt, it's going to pop up on my phone. I'm going to approve that authentication again. I've set mine to prompt every time just for demonstration purposes. You're probably going to have it cache for a lot longer. Okay, so back in our administrative interface here, let's talk about other security related things like our multi-factor. So remember, multi-factor is more than just our Okta Verify. That's my favorite. It's very easy to use. It gives you the ability to just have an app on the phone with push notification, but we also support things like SMS, where we're going to send them a text, Google authenticators, YubiKey. If you don't know what these are really cool. YubiKey. They're just a little physical device like this, hangs on your keychain. Great for people that maybe they don't have a smartphone or they don't want to have a smartphone, be part of their authentication process. So it's just a little throwaway $40 device, stores some security information on it, and that allows us to authenticate. So that's a cool one. Third-party ones like Duo or RSA, security questions, etc. So you get to control these multi-factors and decide which ones kick in and who's allowed to use which factors out there. From a security perspective, I think there's some great information that we're going to provide to you as an administrator in our reporting section here. Way too many times a user calls in and says, I couldn't log in, last Thursday at 2 o'clock, and it's just an absolute mess to find out the logs or any kind of information associated with that. We've got some great ways to find that information right here. Here in our system log, I can go and see very, very explicitly what's going on with different user authentication requests. So, who was the user? Where are they logging in from? Heck, I even have the latitude, longitude. What browser were they using? What operating system? What was the reason for the failure? Was it a credentials issue? Was it because they're in the wrong zone? Was it because they didn't do multi-factor? What is their IP address? All this information gets, really funneled to me right here and gives me a very, very easy way to understand what's happening with an authentication session. So it collapses that what used to be a very dispersed set of authentication systems, across Active Directory and the firewall and, a bunch of Windows event logs and things like that. And it's collapsed all of those down into, a single location that users can go and access. And then me as an administrator, I can go and get information out of. So for troubleshooting, this is just an awesome place to go in and find that information. I can even click on things and it's going to create a filter so that it's just focused on that particular user, for example. And yep, right there, invalid credentials. The problem was you're typing in your password wrong. That was the fundamental issue. It wasn't that you were in the wrong zone or whatever, like some of the other messages might be. So. All right, so I've been talking for a little bit. I'm going to pause for a minute and try and look through some of the questions. So please use the Q&A feature if you have any questions. We can kind of go through them. First question here, what if I don't have Active Directory? That's not a problem. That's perfectly acceptable. We have that integration with Active Directory, but it is not a requirement. It is simply an option if you choose. If you already have Active Directory on premise and it's something that you need to, you need to interact with, then great, we can interact with it. If you don't, then you don't need Active Directory. We can have Okta just be the source of truth there, maybe integrate with an online HR system or something like that. And then, what you can also do, you can add multiple Active Directory here. So this is fabulous for things like mergers and acquisitions. Let's say you go and you buy another company, they have Active Directory, you have Active Directory. Let's go put both in here, and let's have Okta be the glue to ingest that information from two different directory systems that use two different schemas and two different methods, and let's unify them all behind a single authentication platform inside of Okta. So great way to help out with those M&A activities. Another question here, what if the usernames don't match? Okay, so this is a common problem that we run into where an application doesn't use what you think the username should be. So, for example, maybe your AWS console, or no, let's use a different one. Maybe your Office 365 and your ServiceNow, this is T Smith, but this is Tom.Smith, or whatever. What we can do is we can actually go in here to our sign-on section here, and we would edit the settings right here, and we would say, what is the application user format? Maybe it expects the Okta username, maybe expects the email, maybe expects the account name or something with the domain. But look, we have a custom section right here. So there's actually expression language here. When you open it up, it kind of gives you the reference architecture here to say, okay, if you want to access the first name, you reference it like this. So we could go back over here and we could say, okay, well, it's going to be, first name dot, it's just user dot last name. You could put that in there and even give a little preview on what it would look like here for a particular user, so that you could see what the custom configuration would be. We would need to complete it the correct way, but that way you could have multiple different usernames for those applications, and it would be pretty easy to translate between them. So that's how you can do it if you have usernames that don't match. Okay, another question here: does MFA cost extra? So the short answer is it depends on which MFA that you're actually using. Okta is very, very straightforward with their pricing. This is one of my favorite parts about Okta. So you can go right to their website /pricing, and it tells you exactly how much all of these products cost. So they have two general products, and we talked about the workforce identity products today. That's what we spent almost all the time on. The customer identity products is really cool, but it's more for customer facing stuff. So let's say your organization has 10,000 customers and they need to log into a portal or something like that. This could give a single authentication source for that, and do password reset and multi-factor, all that fancy stuff for end customers. It's called CIAM, Customer Identity and Access Management. So that's what the customer identity products are. Workforce is what normal corporate IT generally needs to do. So here we have the workforce identity products. You can see we have single sign-on, and then multi-factor authentication. To get the multi-factor with things like the Okta Verify and the Okta Push that you saw me using as a phone, it is an additional charge. If we want to go and add extra features down here, like the device context and impossible travel patterns and new geolocation, things like that, we need to sign up for the adaptive multi-factor. So I love it since the pricing is just so straightforward. It's very easy to understand what it's going to cost, and no large capital expenditures. It's just operational expenditures. Okay, one more question here. We have fingerprint readers at our desk. Now we have employees working from home, remote into the desktop. The fingerprint reader won't work. Is there a way we could do that? So the authentication that you saw as part of the advanced server access, there is a variant on this. I don't have it set up. I can't show you right here, right now, but that would make it so that when you use RDP to a server or a workstation, it would pop up and prompt for Okta, which then we can obviously prompt for multi-factor and things like that. So yes, it could be a replacement for those fingerprint readers with our own Okta Push, and we install that RDP based authentication system. So it looks kind of like this, but they don't have to use a command line, things like that. They just go to log in, it pops up on the screen, and then they can do the Okta Push. Okay, so I don't see any more questions here. Keep them coming if you have any, but I'll jump back and talk about a really cool offer that Okta has just put out in the last couple of days. So they understand the huge problem. I mean, you guys probably know more than anyone that this whole adventure has caused everyone working from home. And so they have a really cool offer, Okta SSO for up to 5 applications. And you saw those applications that I had in there. Office 365 was one application, even though I had there for Word, Excel, and all the other crap. Dropbox and AWS and all those different applications that I have will give you Okta SSO and up to 5 applications for free for 6 months. If you want to add the multi-factor component, you just have to pay $1 a user a month. So, this is an amazing offer. It's incredibly cost effective, even if you need to add that MFA. There's not really any strings attached. There's not some gimmick. It really is an amazing offer that they're giving away for 6 months. Obviously, what they're hoping is that you love what the features happen, and you're going to stick with it even after the 6-month period. So, obviously that's their goal, but it's still, worthwhile definitely looking into. You see, you can't be an existing Okta customer to be eligible for it. And if you have any questions, just let us know. We can help you set up Okta in days. Very, very quick. It's not some 4-month implementation cycle, generally speaking. So I just want to thank everyone for joining. John said we had a couple of those Ancestry DNA test kits to give it away to some of our best questions. So I believe the one about the fingerprint readers, that was a great question. Teresa F. And then I like the one about the usernames not matching, because I had that specific problem in our organization, and I thought it was an awesome fix to be able to fix that. So Melissa T, great question as well. So we're going to get those sent out to you. We're going to record this webinar and put up on YouTube if you want to review it later. And if you need any help, you want to talk more about Okta, you think it's interesting, and you want to kick the tires on it or anything, please let me know. Here's my contact information. If you've worked with NCSI before, probably you have a salesperson you've worked with. They can help out as well. So anyone can from NCSI can assist with this. So please hit me up if you have any further questions or I wasn't able to answer it all the way. But